What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Chris Abacott.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on? So, welcome back. Our last episode would have been Ask CISSP, which I sat down with Bryce England. So if you have not heard that one, please go back and listen to it. Conversation about leadership and kind of where cybersecurity is and how it potentially should be going in order to be a more inclusive and better industry, so to speak. So definitely continue to check us out. We're on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area, simulcast on the TuneIn app so you can hear us worldwide, as well as we are on, of course, YouTube, your podcast platforms of choice, Repton Tech, and Black Tech Plus. So definitely check us out there as well for curated content. But without further ado, I give it to you, Chris, for the first topic.
Absolutely. So for our first topic, we've got the Anthropic warns state-linked actor abused its AI tool in sophisticated espionage campaign by David Jones out of the cybersecuritydive.com website. This is a really landmark blog and really a next evolution into AI and cybersecurity and really the adversarial use of AI in that sense, right? So in a blog post published on Thursday, Anthropic said that a state-linked actor manipulated one of its agentic AI-based coding tools to conduct espionage, right, against 30 organizations across the globe. So this is actually, when you think about it, this is unprecedented because they've utilized the cloud code AI agent to work on their behalf and target actors from large technology firms, financial institutions, and government agencies. Right? This is absolutely unprecedented. So between 80 and 90% of the attack was conducted by AI, according to Anthropic, who published the blog. Anthropic says so think about it, 20 to 10%, 10 to 20% of that specific cyber attack were decision points made by humans. The rest of it, 90% was automated. So Anthropic said they banned a number of accounts linked to the attack, and they added some frameworks around the cloud code tool. But the way it works, right, is that they jailbroke the cloud code, and then it allowed them to bypass its built-in railguards. And what they're saying is that the cloud itself worked on their behalf. Anthropic definitely acknowledges this and realizes that, hey, this is unprecedented. They've gone and done the due diligence surrounding that. But again, this is one of those attacks that can only be really completed and done by state actors like North Korea, Iran, China, and things like that. But looking into the actual blog itself, right? I'm looking at the diagram that they provided. So they really spell out the phases in which the human operator and the Claude code worked out, right? So they utilize something called the MCP servers, which are called to the platform actions rather than data, right? So there's a phase one where the human reviews and analyzes, right? Phase two is where they use Claude to attempt exploits and validate the callbacks, right? So that's just validating if they can get to something, right? And then the human reviews the actions in phase two, reviews the potential findings and further actions. And phase three is where they get into the exploitation tools. They get to they get within the system. They do the internal recon, right? And they obtain credentials and data. And then from there, it's a wrap, right? They've got privileged escalation. They've got access to all sorts of stuff, all done through agentic AI, right? Again, this is very unprecedented, and that this is apparently the first publicly published use of agentic AI in a cyber attack. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts? A lot of unprecedented and crazy stuff happening.
Yeah, so we're already there. Earlier, I'd say in the year or even last year, we were talking about how in the future we'll have these events where AI could potentially be jailbroken in this case and used against us. So we're already there. We're already seeing it. So Anthropic and Claude in this instance, well documented. But we've already seen links between North Korea, Iran, and China using Gemini to do the same thing, right? So it's the fear of the guardrails being taken off and these rogue agents being utilized by state actors. It's already happened, right? So we're just now catching up with the documentation and trying to change course. So we're already years ahead of where we thought we'd be. I thought it was interesting that it's not fully automated, which is kind of bittersweet. So, right, like we always talk about, like you won't be replaced by AI, you'll be replaced by a person who understands AI, right? So even in this case, when it comes to bad actors, whether they're, in this case, they use their own custom attack framework, but if you look at something like MITRE ATT&CK or something like that, you're always going to have these inflection points when it comes to reconnaissance and scoping and changing targets and things of that nature. Same thing applies here, but then they're, boosted, right? They become even more deadly because of the ability to use these rogue agents. So, I mean, at this point, we have to fight fire with fire. Like there should be, hopefully MITRE sitting down, hopefully NSA, CISA, and other corporations or entities used by the government are sitting down to figure out how do we better defend ourselves, because it's already too late, right? Because a couple weeks ago, I think it was me and Shannon, we discussed how OpenAI, they found rogue agents out there where they're basically, there's a window where you can use an old version of ChatGPT that you can bypass its guardrails, quote unquote, fairly easy, right? So it's just a matter of finding that specific version and then utilizing it to do something nefarious or, you know, do things it's supposed to stop itself from doing. So it's already happening, people. Like we're already 5-10 years further than we thought we would be. So it really just is a matter of, figuring out how do we combat these rogue agents and detect them faster. So interesting stuff, to be honest with you.
Yeah, very, very interesting. And I think, kind of lets us walk towards the next article, right? It just kind of makes sense as AI proliferates its way into the just the general workforce itself, right? So our next article is from tech.co by Connor Colley, and it's titled Cybersecurity Firm Deepwatch Fires 1/3 of its workforce for AI. 1/3 of its workforce. So there's
I got a lot to say about this.
Yeah, and first off, I'm just gonna say yikes. That's a lot. But it's saying the article stating that essentially the announced layoffs, Deepwatch is the cybersecurity firm, announced layoffs, and it will impact 60 and 80 employees. So that's not a big company. It's about 250 something employees. So to me, I've got thoughts as well, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about the key takeaways here real quick. The company noted that layoffs were because they want to accelerate quote, to accelerate our significant investments in AI and automation. Suspicious, right? And then the layoffs, and the article also talks about the layoffs being as the growing number of businesses in 2025 that are restructuring their workforce in response to AI, right? And so the article does talk about one, in 2025, there's a few jobs that are safe from AI, right? And then they join a dozen tech firms that are trimming down the workforce because of AI. And then the CEO even talks about quote, aligning the organization with our significant investments. But my favorite part of this article really comes to the employee response, right? A lot of them are talking on going to LinkedIn, and then one even in quotes saying, they're doing something with AI and the agentic AI, but it sounds like BS, right? According a current employee to TechCrunch, right? The article then talks about the other industry examples where Amazon announced it would be letting go of 14,000 employees, Microsoft removing 6,000 employees, and Salesforce bragging, CEO Mark Benioff bragging about reducing company workforce from 9,000 to 5,000 thanks to AI. Ultimately, they say AI is putting jobs at risk, whether through avid investment or full-on role replacement. Long story short, in my opinion, I think that these layoffs are less about agentic AI and more about saving money, right? There's a recent article, or rather a recent study by MIT saying that AI actually offered little return on investment, right? when it comes to implementation from these, only like a certain percentage of companies. It's very minute as well. So really in my head, it's just, hey, this is just a layoff and they're blaming AI. That's what they're doing. A lot of these companies are doing the same old story. Because if you think about the AI agentic AI, like how much can that really replace a human in terms of the human inputs and parameters and things like that? Right. I think that there's also situations where companies have, let people go because of AI and then had to rehire people back because they messed up and said, hey, we actually need a human to supervise this type of stuff. Right. So like Ryan was saying, knowing how to use AI will get you there. I think some of these companies, specifically this company, Deepwatch, maybe a third of their workforce that's extremely sizable. Right. And to be automating, a lot of maybe MSP functions, penetration testing functions, it helps, but you do need the human interaction in order to make sure that they validate certain incidents, certain events, or just ensure that there's no false positives. So these AIs don't act haphazardly and just do something to mess up your information systems. Right. So Ryan, what are your thoughts? There's a lot to talk about on this, right? There's a lot to unpack. These layoffs, right, minus the stock market, doing really well, really just as a result of AI, the billions of dollars of AI just circulating between a few companies. The rest of the companies aren't really doing too well from a revenue and profit margin perspective.
Yeah, so there is a lot to unpack here. Um, it's AI washing, right? I cut right
100%.
to it, cut right to the chase, right? The thing is, like, so if you are NVIDIA or Microsoft or, any of these larger entities, right? Your $1 trillion valuated companies, I can see you using the guise of AI washing. What is AI washing? So I actually have a definition of it, right? So AI washing is a deceptive marketing tactic that consists of promoting a product or a service by overstating the role of artificial intelligence and the integration of it. Companies often involved in the practice to mislead customers, to boost their offerings, to secure funding from investors. The practice raises concerns regarding transparency and legal issues. So it can be used two ways, right? And in the case of these $1 trillion organizations, they're firing people because they need the money to build, right? So they're trying to scale as quickly as possible. And you, the person who they have to care and feed for, right? The person have to provide benefits for, they can then take that money they would have spent on you and instead put it into a data center or put it into a contract or, to infinity, right? All of this money in order to build facilities. In the case of these companies, like a $250 or $250 250 person company, they're using it as a shield to shed headcount, right? In my opinion, like maybe there is some AI in the background or what have you, but again, like you said, the ROI is not demonstrating that. Like these companies that do invest in AI are not getting the money back. So in common business practice, if an investment doesn't pan out, then you pivot, right? Because you don't want to go under. So in these cases, I think they're just using AI as a shield to get rid of people. And what is this phantom AI they speak of, right? Like, so you have companies like Amazon saying that, okay, like these roles are being filled by agents. I've not heard of or seen any angelic agents that are able to do what these people that they're firing do, right? When it comes to like our CEOs and AI now, like, no, it's not. Or our middle management are all AI agents. No, no, they're not. And if they are, you're going to go under. You're not going to make it because people at that level need to be people, not angelic AI. You might say I'm AIist or something to that regard. I haven't seen it. It has not been demonstrated, so I don't know what people are claiming to have in the background that are replacing middle management and above. So I just think that they're using it as fodder in order to shed headcount for other investments or just for those record making profits that they always speak of. Like we had to fire 5% of our company. We're so sorry. They were our family. Oh, by the way, investors, we're making record-making profits.
Correct.
So
We're in the green again, guys. Check it out.
Yeah.
We're in the green.
Yeah.
And one thing too is
nonsense.
I think there's a well-known IBM presentation slide, right, from 1979 that says this: a computer can never be held accountable Therefore, a computer must never make a management decision. Who is accountable for some of these actions? How does agentic AI work, right? You need inputs. You need to give it access to certain programs, features, technologies, facilities. I don't know. You have to fully flesh out an agentic AI, right? An AI agent cannot, speak to a client and give it what it wants based on, the certain parameters. You're not giving, it doesn't have the intelligence because it may not be programmed to, right? What are these things? What are these? I just think that these are, like you said, they're phantom layoffs, and they're using AI as like a scapegoat for their actions.
Yeah, absolutely. And then when it comes to, so like, even if you have, let's say you are using agentic AI in your tech stack, right?
Mm-hmm.
To quickly orchestrate and automate. Those are people anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not replacing a person at that point. You are just becoming more efficient, and maybe you're even scaling in that regard. But again, those were not people, right? Like a
Mm-hmm.
person a person at SOC sees a flag, they then have to do their due diligence and then use their playbook or runbook or whatever to then do the thing, whether it be, tied to your disaster preparedness, your business continuity, your service continuity, whatever. Okay, so now you put an agentic agent in there, and still flag is tripped, thing is done, but ultimately you still need human being for intervention. So you can't really get rid of that person. All you're doing is just you're paying licensing fees to add, but you can't reduce headcount in that case, right? Because you're not firing a department. There was a department of people who were able to do what that current AI is doing. They never existed, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense. So I kind of want intervention at this point.
Well, because I think if they're actually firing people based on AI, I think there needs to be accountability. I think like if they should be able to show, hey, this is why we're firing people, right? And I would rather have them say, hey, we're not making enough money, like layoffs. Like I would rather than be honest with that, and I think it would present better. But to blame it on AI, I think is a weak cop out.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And not to say that I want over regulation, but I just want them to be
Yeah.
called to the mat. They don't have to go before Congress or something like that. Like I don't know if like the SEC or someone, but someone has to just be able to like, okay, you've shed this many people. Now why? Like
Mm-hmm.
what did you actually purchase, or what did you actually have to divert funds from? Like show me the AI in this equation. And I guarantee you like 80% are like, doesn't exist. But I digress. I could be wrong.
Excellent.
Like I would love to have somebody come on the show to break it down. I'm not seeing it, but again, maybe it's just I'm not the CEO of $1 trillion company. So
Exactly. With that being said, I think now we're going to be for our next article, we're pivoting towards government shutdown and reopening news, right? So this next article comes from federalnewsnetwork.com by Justin Doubleday, and it's entitled Congress extends CISA, not like this is that we know, CISA, CISA 2015, but path to long-term reauthorization remains murky. So what is CISA 2015? It is actually the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act of 2015 through the end of, so they've extended the provision of this act through the end of January in line with the government shutdown, or rather the reopening of the government as of this week, right after this recording. So the CISA, again, this is already confusing because it shares the name with the Cybersecurity Information Agent. CISA provides privacy and liability protections to encourage companies to share data about cybersecurity vulnerabilities and threats. So I do want to talk about the sharing aspect. This is actually a sharing measure for public and intelligence between public and private companies. Private companies and government entities, right? Addressing uncertainties that, this has actually addressed uncertainties about slowing down collaboration and heightened legal risks, right? So industry groups like, pardon me, the lapse itself sparked urgent calls from industry groups and technology industry organizations, and then they wanted a permanent solution for long term. So there's several lawmakers that were for it and against it. And I don't want to talk about politics here, but it's interesting that there's bipartisan support and bipartisan opposition on this, which was very interesting as well. But without information sharing, some of the lawmakers and experts warn of about broader national security risks. So installed cyber defenses and increased vulnerabilities for public-private partnerships, right? This is what it's all about. And when you think about it, the public-private partnership is very important because the private sector tends to be more ahead of the pack in terms of certain things in some areas, whereas the public sector, of course, has the defense industry as well as in the military grade cybersecurity stuff that they could share down to the private industry. So there's that mutual beneficial relationship with them, right? So there's ways that they can improve their cybersecurity programs based on the information that they share with each other, right? This is again, and for that, I think that it's a stopgap, but we hope that it will be extended towards, past the government shutdown, and hopefully that this private and government relationship can still go and work out. So Ryan, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's necessary. If you go back to my interview with Miguel Clark, he did something similar in the FBI, where they would meet with private industry and discuss different attack vectors, like find out and collect information about how they were breached or attacked, or hey, here's something that we've seen on the federal side that you may want to be on the lookout for, because ultimately, we beat a dead horse here, but cybersecurity is national security, right? So you have these companies, which I believe they're kind of like at the tactical edge, right? Because they have the ability to do things that the federal government just simply is not doing. Like
Mm-hmm.
they're out there and about, but at the same time, they are, targets by national state actors to extort, to ransomware, to steal from, and you will learn a lot about that, by listening to our podcast and what have you. But I think it's very important for them to be able to share this information amongst each other and with the federal government, because on the other end of that pendulum, right, the federal government has a duty to protect the citizens. So with that being said, they need to share this information so they can help to better protect these companies, which their clients are, citizens, as well as they are the canary in the coal mine for what state actors may be trying to do or techniques they're trying to perfect before attacking critical infrastructure. So I think it just makes sense to have this information sharing or this pipeline. And I can't see, like, bipartisan for, I definitely see. Bipartisan against, I don't quite understand. But it may be an issue that is necessarily not what they do, but maybe it has something to do with funding, because I don't really see what you stand to lose by facilitating information sharing in this regard. It just doesn't make sense to me.
I think the article does talk about certain provisions with the act that some may see as murky. So again, we haven't read the entire authorization, but I think that's the argument about it, right? It's like when politicians tend to package in certain things with laws.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let's just throw in these kickbacks real quick.
Or it's what's the term? Yeah, it's the pork barrel spending, all the maybe the additions and DLC content.
Stuff that doesn't even make sense.
Exactly, right. So there's that at play as well.
Yeah, so I can see that, like maybe there was something added to the bill or something they wanted to slip into the bill, and they were kind of upset about that. I wish, like, there used to be this thing which I guess was kind of not constitutional, was redlining, right? Like they were not. There's two different types of red lines, but in this case, the non-impactful one on people of color was that they would just simply strip things from the bill. Right. It would get to either the president or someone beneath them, and they just be like, well, this is out, this is out, this is out, and we passed the bill. But that's not necessarily, constitutional. So I think a lot of stuff does slip through. Like, oh, you want to feed kids? Well, you also have to, whatever we want to add to this bill to pass it, which I just I don't like, but at the same time, it's probably existed since the beginning of America.
Right.
It's like you have to completely change the system in order to keep it from happening. So what am I to do about that specifically? But no, I hope it does continue. Like, of course, it's only until the next vote, which is crazy to me, right? It's grand opening, grand closing. Like, how can we keep going through this cycle and not go insane? I don't know. Like, it's affecting people's everything, whether it be their jobs, their healthcare, their it's just a lot of waste. by opening
Indeed.
and closing the government over and over again. But I digress, right? But yeah, very interesting. We'll see. Again, yeah, you're right. The name convention is crazy. CISA being used for multiple things is kind of
Right.
wild, but what are you gonna do?
The government and their acronyms, they just can't decide.
Right. But with that being said, Chris, how was your week or couple of weeks?
My weeks have been pretty relaxed, actually. Just there's family traveling and coming into town, right, from, both sides. We're meeting up with them and, having, food, multicultural food. Like I've got family that's or in-laws that are, or in-laws of in-laws, right, that are like Greek and, Balkan, right? So we have a diversity of food. It's really, really, really fantastic, at the family get together. So that's great. Been from the entertainment perspective, sports, of course, still deep into dynasty and fantasy. There's a lot of good games happening. Vikings, Shannon was in the call, but Ravens beat the Vikings last week, so I mean, I kind of expected that better defense and just overall package. So it's well, but JJ McCarthy's back. I mean, hopefully his playing steps it up. But again, it's his first full year, right? Or rather, year playing. So that should be exciting to see how he pans out within the next few years. I think there's a lot of pressure on young quarterbacks to perform on their first year. But like you got these second year quarterbacks like Drake May just absolutely killing it now on the Patriots end. So that's fantastic to see. There's basketball. The NBA started back up at some point, but like I don't follow the NBA until the playoffs, right? I just hope that the Timberwolves are in the playoffs and I root for them, right? But
Got you.
it's just,
Yeah, I'm a Knicks fan. We've been killing it.
yeah,
Like
Knicks have been doing really well, absolutely. But it's, I don't know, like something about modern NBA, like not to brag, like obviously the basketball players are so talented, but the game is geared towards the threes and the long distance shooting and stuff
that's
like
Steph.
that. It's all
So
Steph, right?
yeah, they said Jordan messed up the game when he came in, which I disagree. He made it way more entertaining.
I think he elevated it, right?
Yes, exactly. But yet Steph did mess up the game. And people are shooting from half court now. You're like, come on, man.
Yeah, and but the thing is, like, I think the coaches and they've done the numbers and they've done the analysis, right? It just from the statistics perspective, it wins games at this point, right? So it's been kind of a shootout fest. I just miss the old post days, like in the 2000s, 90s, where you've got the big guys, Tim Duncan, you've got prime Shaq, just absolutely dominating the post, right?
Bodying people.
Yeah. And also, I was watching a game recently. I think it was like a random game. Some of my family, they're Greek, right? So they watched Giannis. Right? I was watching the Bucks in Charlotte. And it was just like, everything was a foul. Like everything was just the slightest
there's
touch.
no physicality.
Like, there's no physicality at all. And I'm like, is that, and also I think that basketball, this is become a kind of rant on basketball, but it's like, you've got people flopping now. And that's not like soccer, right? Where people are flopping day and night. But it's like they're shooting, right? Because it's a strategy. They're shooting to draw fouls versus, hey, I'm trying to shoot because I want to get the basket in, right?
You're trying to get 4 points.
And like,
or at least get to the line, yeah.
I think that drawing fouls and like the whole entrapment of getting fouls, I think needs to go away for any casual watcher like myself for it to be enjoyable.
Yeah, this is the same thing in football right now, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to QB protection, right? Like I don't want to see QBs get rocked all the time, but sometimes they deserve it. And you basically can't touch them. Like you cannot enforce physical violence on the QB.
But like there was you looked at the Carmelones back; they were just massive, just extremely physical, power forwards and centers back then, and it's. I'm who am I to talk? I'm freaking short, but I'm like, I like seeing these massive people just like be physical, right? I want to see that. Like I miss those times.
Yeah.
And
now
yeah, just
create a players like Wembley. You have this guy who should not exist.
It's just like, oops, a little 6 foot jump or 6 inch like hop dunk.
Yeah. He alley-ooped himself last week. He stood off the backboard, caught it, and dunked.
I saw a clip just now. It was like, I think it was last night. It was Draymond Green guarding Wemby. And it's crazy. Draymond is a huge guy, but Wemby is like, I don't understand. Yeah, you're right. He shouldn't exist. He's huge. he was guarding him very well. Like he was even being very physical from a NBA perspective. Ali went done, just a little hop, and was able to just dunk over Draymond Green, one of the best defenders in the league.
All arms and legs. It's
All
crazy.
arms and legs, right? They're gonna have to increase the height of the freaking basketball hoop.
Yeah,
For
like
that.
raise it.
Raise it to 11 feet. Nobody's gonna be able to dunk anymore except Wemby.
Right.
But yeah, there's that, and then entertainment wise, I started watching The Pit. Right?
Okay.
Very
Yeah.
good.
It's good, right?
It's really good. And you know what? The first thing I was like, "Yo, Filipinos, let's go."
Yeah, the nurse corps in there.
The nurse, but that's the thing. Like, I'm glad. Like, I think they covered it a while ago, but this is like one of the first like shout outs to Filipinos in the nurse corps, right?
Okay.
But in Hollywood, and I'm like, yeah, but the Filipinos have been nurses for years, right? They've run nursing, organization. They've been there for years, right? So it's especially in California. Like, I've got family in California; it's all nurses, right?
Okay.
So I'm finally glad to see that representation. It's pretty interesting, and it's a fact, right? Everybody's got their Filipino mafia in these little hospitals, so it's glad to see that being represented appropriately by Hollywood. And then on the video game end, I've been playing World of Warcraft Legion Remix, right?
Okay.
That's so much fun. It's a temporary event, time gated event where you're playing like overpowered characters. Like it's essentially an arcade mode. I think I may have talked about it in the past, but it's got like 60 some days left. But it's so much fun. It's the most fun I've had on a game in a long time, right? It's just fantastic. Your characters are overpowered and you can level really quickly. And you're familiar with Diablo, right? Like,
yes,
you get the keys. You can push the keys for dungeons and make it more exponentially difficult, right? That's been a lot of fun, right? Doing that stuff as well, right? And there's always the online game aspect where you talk BS, but that's always fun as well.
Right, exactly.
So that's been my week.
Okay, that's awesome. So for me, just getting outside since it's not as hot. So you've been, doing stuff. You went to the river walk. So if you're in the Tampa area, right, go downtown, there's the river walk, and there's a bunch of restaurants, and you've got amateur works, so you get some really good food. There's a place called Ling's, man. We had hit that place up twice. So Ling's does dumplings, man, so good. Chef's kiss on that one.
We'll have to check it out. Ling's.
Yeah, Ling's and Amateur Works. So, we did the Riverwalk thing. We hit up Ling's. I went back on because we did it the past weekend, but then I went back on Veterans Day, right? Because I don't really hit up the restaurants to do the free stuff. I did that the first year, and I was just like, it's overcrowded. I feel bad for the servers because right, we're all just there trying to get free stuff and not give good tips. So now I kind of avoid it, right? So I don't really go out on a Veterans Day, but I did hit up Amateur Works, and it was pretty thin in there, right? Because kids still had to go to school and things of that nature. So you only really saw working adults that were off that day. So it's pretty good. And I was just going there for the dumplings. So I need to weigh myself after Halloween candy and dumplings, and now I got Thanksgiving coming. So my diet is completely out the window. Game wise, I played and beat finally Ghost of Yote. So I got like 90 hours in it. I got like 3 more trophies to get the platinum. So I'm just going through and trying to trophy hunt. Like find all the vanity items and things I just didn't collect while I was traveling. I did most of everything before I beat the game. I had a great experience. Awesome game. I definitely recommend. Gameplay, story, character development, like all chef's kiss. So now moving on to Silent Hill 2 remake. So it's free on PSN. So I never beat a Silent Hill game. So I have that one, and I have Silent Hill F, the one that's based in Japan, the brand new one. So I have one of the first ones that they remade, and I have one of the latest that they have. So I'm gonna play through both of those because it's still spooky season until Christmas happens. And then last night I took the boys to see Predator Badlands. Real good. Like, so I went in with not low expectations because I like the director and he did Prey and he did Killer of Killers. So he has a really good record so far when it comes to Predator movies. But Predator franchise, man, it was a decade where they just did not make good movies. So I like Predator 1. Predator 2 was okay. Everything else, trash, in my opinion. There's one, I forget what it's called, that came out in between that they basically took them to like a world or an island and they fought predators. That one was okay. But for the most part, they're 80s movies that never really evolved until now. So like Prey, amazing. Killer of Killers was was amazing. Badlands, it was the first time that the Predator is the protagonist with I want to say Dakota Fanning, it's Ellie Fanning or something like that, or like playing another human character. Or playing the only human-like character.
Mhm.
But people kind of are like, I don't really know. Like it had the biggest opening of any Predator movie. But people are kind of like, it's PG-13. Well, it's PG-13 not because it's not violent, because it is actually very gory, but it's alien on alien and alien on robot violence. So that way they get away without having a R rating. Because it is very gory. Like I really thoroughly enjoyed it. And it has some comedy in it, which there's only a little bit of comedy in like the original Predator movies, but this one actually had some laugh out loud moments, which was kind of weird, but it worked. So
Interesting.
yeah,
Like a Predator version of Marvel.
yeah, or like a buddy cop movie, right?
Yeah.
It's very interesting, the dynamic like between the lady who's playing a Sith, right? Because you got to remember that the Predator and Alien universes are the same universe, right? So you have Weyland Yutani Synths, out there and about in the universe collecting samples is what they usually do and things of that nature. And they know of the Predator culture and of their existence.
Right.
So like she's able to actually speak its language, which we hear as English in the movie, and he speaks back to her and the Predator tongue or whatever. But usually Predators don't talk; they're just out there just killing. But this is a fresh take, right? This is a Predator on its first hunt, so like he's a little bit more green than we usually are used to seeing. So I thought it was pretty good. But that's pretty much it for me, man. Like
Awesome.
I want to do something today. Like I want to take my wife somewhere. Like maybe we'll do breakfast or something.
Nice. We went to this like Asian place down here in St. Pete. It was pretty nice yesterday. But
Okay.
yeah, like because we got to get away from like the whole DoorDash stuff and support our servers and local
Oh man,
restaurants.
it's
You
hard.
know,
It's
you
hard
know.
because it's so like since the pandemic, man, it's so easy just to go pull up DoorDash
But
and be
DoorDash is
like,
so expensive. Like
yeah,
it's literally like if it's cheaper to go eat out at the restaurant than order DoorDash after all the fees and tip. It's cheaper to just go out to eat, right?
it's very true. Yeah, but it's I get to sit in my house.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is something to say about just getting out though, right? Because we went to Texas Roadhouse, right? Not trying to bash it. If the Texas Roadhouse would like to sponsor us, we'll take it, right?
Yeah, right.
But it's not a Ruth Chris or
Yeah, or Burns.
Ocean Prime or Burns or something like that, right? But we just went there. It's just something about getting out the house and being around people and just having a meal is still an experience as opposed to watching Survivor on your couch, eating the same food because you door dashed it. So there
No
is
doubt.
something to be said about that. But thank you all for tuning in to this episode. Again, you can hear us on your podcast platform of choice. I try to post on Tuesdays or Wednesdays, and then that is then put on Repton Tech. It's put on Heroes Media Group. We're now on Black Tech Plus, which is awesome. I'm humbled and honored to be on there with all of the other curated content. But then, of course, if you're listening to us on the radio, you can hear us on WDJY 99.1 FM in the Atlanta metro area, simulcast on the TuneIn app worldwide. So we're also out there, out and about. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy on LinkedIn. But I also have a personal branded page, RyanWilliamsSenior.com. So check me out and all of my projects and what have you. And then, of course, this is a RAM product, right? So go to ramcyber.io for all of my listed services, and you can check out the podcast and pick up the guide, The Other Side of the Firewall, as well. And what about you, Chris?
And you can find me on LinkedIn under my name, Chris Avicon. Last name spelled A Bacon.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.